I believe the recording is on now. So once again, thank you very much. Thank you for accepting our invitation and coming to speak to us at the first session we are having for the BMLS Udus Alumni Connect. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us our senior, a very, very senior individual. I don't want to use colleague here. His name is Augustine Udefi. He graduated from Udus, the BMLS class of 2018, and he then became an intern medical laboratory scientist at the Federal Medical Center Birnin-Kebbi from 2019 to 2020, where he later served at the NYSC in the same states from 2020 to 2021. In September 2021, he was awarded the Commonwealth Scholarship for a master's in public health at the Oxford Brookes University in the United Kingdom. And upon completion, he got an appointment as a biomedical scientist at the Great Western Hospital NHS Foundation Trust in Sweden, where he worked till date. Wow. Today, he is a specialist biomedical scientist at the University Hospital Birmingham NHS Foundation Trust, UK. I hope I pronounced it well. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today, and I look forward to hearing your inspiring journey. Thank you, sir. The floor is yours, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Like he said, this is not going to be like a formal presentation. This is just more of an informal thing. And of course, we are colleagues, regardless of how many years ago we graduated or anything, we're still colleagues. I can see my classmate, Shamsuddin Dinovo Yusuf is on the call too. It's been a long time coming. And I would like to say it's my pleasure being here. A lot of us would have probably benefited a lot from innovative ideas like this when we were back in school. But of course, with technology and everything was not that. Let me say it hasn't gotten to this extent back then. Zoom and Google Meet and Microsoft Teams became more popular during the COVID time in 2019. Then we had already graduated. So, but yeah, talking about like my experience in the School of Medical Laboratory Science, I started in 2013. We were the stream B. During that time, before we entered, myself and Shamsuddin Yusuf, there was a 2012 ASU strike that lasted for almost a year. So because of the 2012 strike, when we got admission in 200 level, we had to join those sets that were in the 100 level because the strike affected them for so long that they couldn't just continue after the strike was done. They had to like almost start everything afresh. So we joined them. They were now the stream A, and we were now the stream B. So coincidentally, during this same period, I think the MLSCN, the council in Nigeria, introduced a new curriculum for medical laboratory science, and it was to start with us. So we were the first people to use the curriculum. I'm sure it's still being used now. The current one you're using now started in 2013 with our class. So we joined a set that were supposed to be our seniors, and we became classmates. And we also started using a new curriculum that nobody had ever used since the school became a thing. So the way the program is, first year you stay at permanent site, second year you move to city campus. I don't know what it is now, but back then we normally spend first year at permanent site, second year at city campus, and third to fifth year at UDUT. However, I didn't stay at permanent site in my first year. I stayed at city campus. I was trying to avoid a lot of distractions because it's not like there was so much happening in permanent site. I just felt like if I was closer to people who were like my seniors in the same field, I'll be more serious as opposed to just being around all of us who were jambitos back then. So I decided to stay at permanent site. At city campus. So that's where I stayed for my 100 level, 200 level, and then I moved to UDUT in my 300 level. That was in 2015. So getting used to the system, I would say having a background in science helps. But I would say the most challenging years, I don't know how it is right now, but back then when we were in school, I'm sure Shamsu can attest to it, the most challenging years, year 2 and year 4, especially 400 level, because we had a lot of courses that were like, I think 4 units or so. So if you get like a couple of C's in some courses like that, it would push your GP to where you wouldn't even expect. So at that 400 level was a very critical time. Most of the people who had first class, second class upper, and 2-1, and 2-2, they were mostly determined at 400 level. I would say it's not about like who studies the most, and it's all about also understanding yourself, what works for you. A couple of people liked, like they say, when you get into this faculty, one of the first things that you can do to help yourself is to discover what works for you. I didn't like reading in the library. That's the library we had at School of Faculty, at a Medical Laboratory Science school, and the permanent side library. I'm pretty sure I maybe used it like 3 times or 4 in my entire 5 years. I normally used either the library or even the classrooms. Most times, if Shamsuddin just sees me in the classroom, he knows that there's no light in the hostel. So because that's where I normally read, I read on my bunk. So that's where I normally read. And this is the way the way my own system of reading was. It was unconventional. uh, I'll take photos of them, make a PDF, send them all to my computer, and that's where I read them. I didn't have a single handout of study. So, and that was one of the reasons why even at 400 level, somebody, hey, do I have this handout from one topic in immunology in 300 level? I'll just go to my computer and grab the thing because I had it like in folders. But however, it was what worked for me. So you would see what works for you and try to apply it diligently and carefully, because you don't want to like experiment a lot. Like take for example, you would be with a couple of classmates who they would read for a couple of hours and it's all right for them, and you would need to read more to assimilate the same thing to the same level. So if you're trying to understand what works for you, it's better not to like risk doing the 4 hours. It's better to like do the extra and see how much you can retain and that. So for me, when I got into 100 level, I didn't have a mindset that was aiming like a first class honors. I was basically studying a lot because I didn't want to like have bad grades. So, and the reason why I wasn't aiming for like a first class, it was because I would say based on my experience in like secondary school, I was pretty much like an above average kid when I was like in my primary school. I was the same Usmanu Danfodiyo. I was in the primary school and I was in the secondary school. So in the primary school, I was basically topping my class up till when I finished. I was always first position. And then in secondary school, everything just changed. Had new friends, had different priorities. And because in when I was like in primary school, I didn't used to read. So whenever we got taught anything in school, whenever they teach us anything in school, whatever they teach us is pretty much what I'll remember up to the day of exams. And that's what I'll write. So I didn't used to read at home. So I used that same thing in secondary school, and my position went from like first to like 10th. So that was what I was basically around up to when I finished secondary school, the Usmanu Danfodiyo Secondary School in 2011. And that made my WAEC and my JAM score to be pretty low, which is why I didn't get admission for from 2011 up to 2013 when I finally got admission, because my JAM score was not enough to get into this program that we had. So when I got into 100 level, I was determined to not fail. So I put in more effort to study, and then we finished 100 level. My GPA was about, I think, 4.79. I think so. They are thereabout. So we were, I think a couple of people um, um, hit above 4.5 during that period, but maybe like two or three. So then we came to 200 level, because whenever you get a GP like that high, there's a lot of expectation on you. You don't want to drop, because it's better you don't even climb at all, as opposed to like you climb that high and then you start dropping. So I was like I was consistent in like studying and doing what works for me, and also of course having other engagement, because it's not all about just studying. I had other things I was doing in school. De novo, me and one other guy and some other guys in hostel, then whenever we're free, we normally stayed around to play pro evolution soccer in one of our rooms, because whenever we had the chance we could do it, because it wasn't all about studying. You need to also rest, get other things that stimulate your brain. So I was pretty much doing most of these. I think the biggest setback I had from the year 1 to 5 was 400 level. A couple of courses, like I had C's in them, so it pushed my GP down. By the end of the day, I still managed to graduate with about 4.62 or so. So in all of that, consistency played a key role. I would say if you are consistent, even if you don't start off with a very good grade, you can finish with a very good grade. And I cannot overemphasize this. You know the saying we normally have in Nigeria that you can get a third class that is like the president, and then the first class would be like a gate man. Oh, while that may be true, usually people are usually pointing at rare exceptions. In ideal cases, the better your grades, the more opportunities you have. I know sometimes it may look like in Nigeria. I also want to acknowledge one of my colleagues that is also on this call, Ruben Ocheja. He's a very close friend of mine, and it's good to have him here on this call too. So, like I was saying, it will look like if you get a first class, you might end up jobless. But nevertheless, it's better to have. There's a saying, it's better to have something and not need it than to need it and not have it. First class is not the end on all be all. Sometimes you get to a level where you can't graduate with a first class, you can get a good 2-1. That matters a lot when you're looking for international scholarships. I myself and Shamsu were fortunate enough to get globally sought after scholarships. And the reason why I say this a lot is because when we were in undergrad, I applied to almost every scholarship you can think about, and I didn't get one. FSB, Agbami, Chevron, NLNG. I even traveled to Abuja in 2014 to go do the NLNG aptitude test. That didn't go anywhere. I went to FGC Sokoto to write the total aptitude test. Didn't get that one. So basically, I finished my entire undergrad with no scholarship. So when it came to like international scholarship, that has even a lower probability of getting. However, if you may not realize that maybe all through your undergrad, all the scholarships you applied for were unsuccessful, but you could just apply to one international one and you get it, because that's just life. It's unpredictable. So if you don't try, how would you know what you could like achieve or get? So in 2000 and in 2019 thereabout, I remembered I met Shamsuddin. There was like an UDUS alumni program that was set up in 2019 in Sokoto in affiliation with CAMRET, the Center for Advanced Molecular Research, I think, and Training there at UDUT. So we met, and I was talking to him about like international like master's degree, like what do we intend to do? So he was telling me about like BUK is the main thing that people are going after now. And like, yeah, I might consider that. I just don't want to do a master's at UDUS, because to me, I had already done my primary school there, my secondary school, my university. I think I had like paid my dues to UDUS. So when I went to FMC, I think that was like one of the turning points, because you know this whole thing where if you do your studies here, you want to do your internship at UDUT, sometimes you don't know what opportunity you might need just going outside of that your comfort zone. When I went to FMC, I saw a couple of people who were like who had traveled outside to like study, and a couple of them like told me like, why don't you like try some of these international scholarships? I'm like I literally went through 5 years of UDUS and I didn't get a local based scholarship. Like, what's the point of trying this one? So there was a night I had just finished there was a day I had just finished one of my shifts at FMC Kebbi. I was going back home around like 10 p.m. So when I got back to the lodge where I stayed at FMC, a friend of mine who we grew up in Sokoto together, he even went to UDUS. He graduated from mathematics department, I think in 2016. So he sent me a message and was like, I'm currently in Egypt. And I'm like, what are you doing there? He was like, he was on his way to Italy. He got a scholarship called the Erasmus Mundus Scholarship. And he graduated with a 2-1. And so he was like, don't worry, tomorrow, once I get to Italy, I'm calling you and I'm telling you all about it. So the next day, he gave me a call on WhatsApp and we talked all about it. He told me while he was at Ibadan, somebody told him about this international scholarship. Because while a lot of you know about this stuff now, this is like very rare knowledge when we're in school. Nobody talks about international scholarship. We don't have alumni who were on international scholarship. It was everybody finishes, you find yourself in UDUT, you find yourself in FMC, you find yourself in state hospital. Those were where we were restricting ourselves pretty much. So when this friend of mine told me about this international scholarships, he told me about a group called International Scholarship Forum. I don't know much about the group now. As of when he told me, this was in 2019. So that's like 5 years ago. So he told me about this group, that it was a group of like students all across Nigeria who were all looking for international scholarships. And similar to what Zakaria just organized here, basically they will look for somebody who had won a particular scholarship. Take, for example, like Chevening Scholarship or Commonwealth, and the person will come and give them an idea of what he did, the application they did, their essays, what they wrote, their experiences, and how they think the applicants could make their applications strong. So I joined the group, and almost every month or every 2 weeks, somebody wins an international scholarship, and they would start congratulating the person, and then you start seeing all this things. You're like, this is actually possible. Sometimes you see people with 2-2 getting like 2-3 scholarships, and then you're like, what's going on? Like, are people really getting scholarships like to travel abroad? And these scholarships were like fully funded scholarships, like literally your tuition, your monthly allowance, everything is paid for. So there was a time during this period I also contacted DeNovo to tell him a bit about this international scholarship forum, and he told me, have I heard of a group called the First Class Leaders Network? And I'm like, what's that? He was like, it was a group where like all graduates across Nigeria with a first class, they like come together, share ideas on how to get scholarship. So I joined that group and also joined the International Scholarship Forum. So we were basically hunting for scholarship throughout our period of internship. And the thing is, when this started, we didn't know how it would turn out, because scholarships, if you apply, you would get used to getting rejection a lot. But that will build your resilience over time, and you won't even take it that seriously anymore. So when this happened, there was when we started to apply for the scholarship, that was when I created a LinkedIn account. And if you are in school right now, or you're about to graduate, or you're doing your internship and you have um, an international scholarship is one of your like goals, I would advise you create a LinkedIn account, because with LinkedIn, you can just search for a scholarship, like Chevening scholarship. Search for under the, it will show you like Chevening scholarship posts, people. Once you click on like people, you would see people who have won the scholarships. You can just contact some of them and be like, hey, I'm applying for this scholarship. Could you help me look at my essay? Most people will tell you no, but you get one or two people that will help you look at your essay. So basically, any scholarship I was applying for, I would find somebody that had won that scholarship, reach out to them on LinkedIn, plead with them to go through my essay, send them reminders because they're quite busy here and like outside the country, like time is money. So that which is why if you tell somebody you're calling them at 6 o'clock, you're calling them at 6 o'clock. And this is one of the things that I had to like switch out of my mindset when I traveled out. There was a time I called my friend and was like, I'm going to call you by 8 o'clock. Is that all right? He's like, yeah. And I called the guy 8 o'clock. I was like, I'm calling literally at 8 o'clock, like not even 8:15. I'm like, time is money. So I digress. So when we're like doing these applications, reaching out to people to help you like review your essay, I got to connect with a lot of people, because even though you might not get all the scholarships you apply for, you will build a very strong network. There was a time, as of the time when I was applying for these scholarships, I knew basically I knew somebody in almost every continent that had gotten a scholarship. In at least 2 countries per continent, I knew somebody, that I had a strong connection with somebody. And this is what one of those things that those LinkedIn help you with. So, but I know this is more about like your experience in UDUS. I don't know the lecturers who are currently there, but we had a lot of lecturers. Some of them unfortunately passed away. Um, it's quite unfortunate, but some of you also met some of the lecturers that taught us different specialties that we were. And I specialized in medical microbiology, and my supervisor was Dr. Zurmi. I haven't been in contact with him for let me say a bit now, so I don't know if he's still in this faculty. Um, so this is just a short, let me say, a brief overview of my experience being in UDUS, the whole lab postings and everything. I'm sure a lot of structural changes has happened in yeah, the Novo needs to run. Well, like I said, time is money. So the lab postings and all that, I'm sure a couple of things has changed. When we started medical laboratory science, when we were doing all our anatomy, we were doing it in a small building called the CHS at City Campus. That's a building, I don't know what they use it for now. Maybe it's just a classroom for reading, but it's like located at the close to that anatomy department. Yeah, come to think of it, anatomy department is now in Udud. So what I might be saying, what I'm saying now might sound a bit strange. So then all those things were in City Campus. They were not at Udud. We were there while all those structures were erected. So even our faculty then at Udud, we just had a small building. We just had a small building that was just close to all these male surgical wards that's just opposite them across the road. That was all we had for medical laboratory science. If 300 level guys are doing lectures, we'll wait for them to finish. If they finish, we would go in, and that's how we're doing before we got to the bigger building. And I know by the time we're graduating, they erected other buildings behind that main building in front. So I know maybe now it has expanded to some other things. So yeah, this is just a brief overview of my time in UDUS. I would entertain questions and answers because I know a lot of you might have one question you want to ask me based on your experience being in the school. And if the question is something I can answer, I'll go ahead and answer it. If it's something I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. If it's something you want to ask me regarding my post-study, my post-study life after my schooling and all that, you can still ask me. So the floor is yours, Zakaria.
Okay, thank you very, very much, sir. Thank you very much for sharing with us your inspiring journey. I think we have hands raised up already. So probably before we take these questions, I want to touch a bit on how you transcended from um how you got to start working at in the United Kingdom. Just a brief so individuals get to know how the whole thing works. Just a few minutes for that.
Okay. So when I was coming to the UK, I was aware that scholarships sometimes come with some kind of conditions. So like with Chevening scholarship, like back then, I don't know how it is now. You have to go back to Nigeria for like 1 year. So with Commonwealth scholarship, you can go back to Nigeria, and then if for any reason you get anything that brings you back, you come back. So how I switched to becoming a biomedical scientist here, that's the question, right? So when I was coming here, I was aware about you had to go back with the Commonwealth stuff, but there was no condition that you couldn't come back. So using LinkedIn, like I said, I connected with somebody who was a biomedical scientist in the UK that was a Nigerian. I asked him, what document do I need? So he told me this document you need. Get some course forms done in the school, fill in the HCPC registration course form. Now it's a bit different because now it's mostly online. Then everything had to be sent by post. So I couldn't send them till I came to the UK myself and had to go to the post office. So I sent all those documents, and then it took me about 3 months. I got some I had to renew my license with the council because I had not practiced, let me say, for almost 7 months. So a bit of money had piled up, and according to council, you're practicing whether you're working or not. So I was in the UK, and my time was still counting on the license. So I paid the amount I was due council, renewed my license, got the council to send an approval form to HCPC, the Health and Care Professions Council in the UK, which regulates biomedical scientists and other some other health professions. So I got this to be done, got references from my employer in Nigeria, got the course form filled by the department. I did all this and then I submitted it and paid the money for the registration. So they had a one-off fee you pay for registration. I can't remember how much it was back then. I think it's about 300 and maybe 300 or 400 pounds thereabout. But mind you, this was in 2021. So then when I came to the UK, 1 naira, I mean £1 was like 750 or so. So now it's about 2,100 naira. So I did all those payments when I came here, and most of them were easier because I was on scholarship. So with scholarship, you had monthly allowance, you had your transport to the UK, your flight was all paid for, your tuberculosis test, your COVID test, everything you do in Nigeria was paid for. Here you get monthly allowance, you get dissertation allowance, you get travel allowance. Basically, you were living in the UK for free for 1 year. You don't have to work or lift a finger to be all right. So I got all those documents, came here, went to the post office the day I arrived Oxford, sent it to the post office, and it took 3 months before it got processed. Then I got my license around May 2022. So I started to apply for a job. It wasn't that easy because here they value UK experience a lot. And if I knew about it when I came to the UK, I would have started looking for like this stuff we normally call technicians in Nigeria. So so it's synonymous with what they call MLA, Medical Laboratory Assistant here in the UK. So as a medical laboratory assistant, you can build up your experience in the lab. And then once your HCPC registration comes out, you're registered, you can now apply for a job as a biomedical scientist. But I didn't have that. And even worst of it all, I specialized in microbiology, and I was trying to switch to hematology when I came to UK. So currently I work in hematology. I've switched and I'm not going back to microbiology because to me, the UK hematology works more. In Nigeria, if I was in Nigeria, I would probably have stayed in microbiology because you get more like infectious agents, pathogens, and diseases, like especially during rainy season, malaria and all that. Here they take malaria like extremely seriously. Like they take malaria as if somebody is like at the brink of death. If there's malaria here, we have to like look at the films immediately, call the ward where the patient is, refer this film to London to the London School of Tropical Medicine. Like they take malaria as seriously as you would consider HIV in Nigeria. So they take malaria that seriously. So here, hematological malignancies, cancers, myeloproliferative disorders, myelodysplastic syndrome, and all these, they are more common here. So I decided to switch to hematology. So I switched to hematology and started to look for jobs. I applied for a couple of jobs, and I got a job like 3 months before I graduated from my master's. So I told them that I couldn't resume until I finished my master's. So they said they were going to wait for me to finish my master's. So I finished my master's in September 2021. I mean, September 2022, because it was a 1 year master's. I came back to Nigeria in October 2022, spent 2 years, I mean, 2 weeks, and then I came back to the UK, took up my appointment and resumed the next month with them. So after I worked with them for like about 4 months, I decided to look for a higher position as a specialist. So that was what brought me to University Hospitals, Birmingham, where I now work. So the process of the registration is basically what I just told you, the documents and all that. If you go to HCPC website, you see the criteria for like international applicants and all that. You don't have to write any exams. The English tests, then you don't necessarily have to have an English qualification as of 2021 when I was doing mine, because you just needed like a proficiency letter to show that you communicate in English, all that. Just the way some schools in US don't care if you have an IELTS if you're from an English speaking country. So that's the documents. If you are like a nurse or a doctor, you have to like write IELTS, do CBT, or do the PLAB 1 and 2 that the doctors do. But for us, there's none. So that's pretty much the HCPC stuff.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your time and going in depth to explain to us how the whole process went. I think we have a few questions and we have in the comment box and we have hands raised. So I'll start with the first question here from Ahmad. Ahmad asks that, please, can you highlight more on your Commonwealth Scholarship, how the application process went? I think that's the question we're trying to ask.
Okay, okay. So I would lie to you because like it's easy for somebody to just tell you this is how the Commonwealth Scholarship goes. This is how you apply for it. But I'll tell you, if you're applying for scholarship, don't have any scholarship in mind. You don't know which country you probably end up. The UK was not like the first places I was targeting. I was mostly thinking of Canada and the US. But then the UK scholarship came. And apart from the Commonwealth Scholarship, I also got another scholarship called the Mastermind Scholarship in Belgium. So that one, I ended up losing the scholarship because I sent a wrong document that needed notarization from the Belgian embassy in Nigeria. I got information from some of my colleagues who had gone to China and other places that to notarize your document, you do it from the High Court. So I sent the document notarized from the High Court, and they said they wanted the one from the embassy, and they passed the scholarship on to the next applicant that was on the waiting list. However, I'd gotten Commonwealth then, and I would have rejected that one still, even if I had gotten it. So with the scholarship application, the Commonwealth scholarship, basically, there are two types for the master's degree. Okay, there are three types. Not really. There's like 4 types for the master's degree. So the one I got is called the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. There's the Commonwealth Master Scholarship. There's the Commonwealth Distance Learning Scholarship, and there's the Commonwealth Split Side Scholarship. So the Commonwealth Master Scholarship, the nomination is done by the Federal Scholarship Board in Nigeria. So they nominate their candidate, and there's another board. I can't remember the second one, but basically they nominate only women. So if you're a female on this call and you're trying to go through the Commonwealth Masters, you might go through the second route. You would see the nominating body on the website, but basically at least you eliminate the male applicants pretty much. Unfortunately, there's none for just us. So the Federal Scholarship Board does the nomination. So you would apply for the scholarship, and the Federal Scholarship Board, once you apply for a scholarship, you must go to either Abuja or Lagos to do there's kind of like an in-person interview they will do for you. So you do those two without knowing if you would get the scholarship. But for the Commonwealth shared, the one I got, the nomination is done by the UK university. They select their candidates. So basically, every year, the Commonwealth gives the universities that are affiliated with the Commonwealth or in conjunction with them, collaborating with them, they'll give them particular slots that they will have, how many slots they have for candidates. And the Commonwealth Scholarship, the application is done by candidates from like 22 countries. So you're competing with people from like 22 different countries. So the school the school that nominates you, basically, they will be the one to be paying your monthly stipend. They will be the one to pay your flight. So all Commonwealth pays is your tuition. So it's kind of shared between the two of them. That's why it's called Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. And I wouldn't say Commonwealth Shared Scholarship is easier to get, but technically it's easier to get because there's no restriction on the amount of schools you can apply to, because all the schools are nominating independent of each other. So if you are applying for, like, let me say, a master's in public health, you can find all courses that are public health, international health, all of them from different universities, and apply for all of them. You can do as much as 15 to 20 applications, all for the same programs in different schools. So even when I was applying for mine, I think I applied for about 10, and one school was the one I got. So it's a bit easier because you don't have to travel to Abuja to write anything. And most of them don't do interviews, so you know straight up if you are nominated or not. That's after maybe like 1 or 2 months of screening. So if you were to do the interview, you know that you've passed the first stage. So now you have fewer candidates to compete with. In my school, the competition was a bit tight, so we had to do an interview. And you know the way Nigeria is, I was in the middle of the interview, and I ran out. There was a blackout, so my laptop that was connected to the only power source I had started running low, and for some reason, I don't know what just happened. My internet connection on my phone just cut off, MTN, and it didn't turn on for like 15 minutes. But lucky for me, I had been done with my interview. The only time where it cut off was where the interviewer was asking me if I had any question for them. So when the internet just popped up back up, they told me to send the question via email. So I did send them the question via email, and I didn't get a response from them until I think about maybe like 1 or 2 months. I'd totally forgotten about it. And because when you start applying for scholarship, you won't be taking it too personally because you're used to like getting a lot of rejection. So that was what we got to. There was a day I was just coming out of my house at Kebbi. I was on my way to get something from the supermarket, and then I was, because I'm always on my headphones. If you ask any of my classmates, the way I am wearing one now, this is how I pretty much was throughout our whole undergrad. I'm always on headphones. So I was just trying to adjust my headphone and put on some music before I take a bike to the supermarket, and I just checked my email, and I just saw that I had been nominated. And that very moment, your life suddenly just switches, because you know that you have just been given an opportunity that can turn your life around, like, for good. So the Commonwealth Scholarship, if you're applying, you can try the Commonwealth Masters, but don't let a year go by without going for the Commonwealth Shared. You have a lot of applications to make. Universities make their decisions. You know, it's not a federal scholarship. It's not related to maybe Nigeria, where you'll be like, oh, you need to know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. Here, if you have a good background, you have a reasonable grade. At Commonwealth, the criteria is you have to have like a 2-1 to apply for it. If you have less than a 2-1, you need an additional degree, like a master's degree within Nigeria, to apply for it. I don't know if they've changed the criteria now, but that was what it was in 2021 when I applied. So I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I think we have a few more hands. We have a few hands up. So I will be calling on Agolo Adam. Adam, can you
Okay.
go on with your question?
Good evening. Thank you for really
Sorry, I'm not hearing you well.
okay. Sorry, let me sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I can hear you now. Remember, if we can't
All
hear
right,
you,
sir.
you
Thank
can
you. I
always
said
type your
my
question.
question is
Yeah.
okay, sir. I see my question is um as an undergraduate student, I know in our curriculum we have to specialize. So do you have anything to say about this specialty of a thing, especially for someone like me that would like to get a scholarship from abroad? That's my question. Thank
Okay. First of all, with regard to specialization, I'm not a big fan of specialization at undergrad, because what you specialize, but during your internship, you still rotate through all. During your NYSC, you rotate. I mean, you normally stay in one area, but if you don't like that area, you could literally just say, oh, you specialize in hematology instead of micro, and you're going and you'll be taken to hematology. At the end of the day, it's mostly just your interest level, but that's as an undergrad. It makes sense to have specialization if you want to work in the hospital. So if you want to work in hematology, it makes sense to start building those hematology experiences right from your undergrad. So from like your 300 level, 300 level, you're combining other departments, 400 level, and then at 500 level, you choose one discipline, and that's the same discipline you specialize with at your NYSC, and then finally when you get a job. If you're traveling outside the country, your specialty might help you if you want to remain in that specialty. But remember, like, different countries have different job markets for different specialties. Here in microbiology, they don't do like, let me put it this way, like between 9 to 5 o'clock, which is core hours, regular shifts, your pay pattern is basically lower than any other time outside of core hours. So if somebody was to work, let me say 5 p.m. to another time, let me say 5 to 7, 5 to 3, the person would earn more than the person who works 9 to 5 for the same job. So with every hour outside of the core hours, there's an enhancement, and it gets more during the night. So if like somebody who is a biomedical scientist and works only night shifts, they earn significantly more than somebody who works only 9 to 5. So it's one of those things. So that's why here in the UK, like, the payment is like per hour. So you could see somebody who is like an assistant, and the person earns more than you, who is a biomedical scientist, because all you work is 9 to 5, but they work nights. They do like overtime and extra because they're paid per hour. So if you choose to specialize, you might consider, okay, the country you're moving to, do you want to specialize in that same thing? Because like microbiology, like maybe here in the UK, will not be the same as microbiology in Nigeria. Like malaria is not something you come across easily. Most times if there's malaria, it's somebody that maybe traveled to maybe an African or an Asian country or South America that came back with it. So, and here analyzers are more specialized. So even like with microbiology, you could have analyzers that can literally view parasites and give you an interpretation without you needing a microscope. So even with hematology, like you could have analyzers that can digitally carry out blood film morphology, identify the cells in it, and give you a result. So the question is, because if you consider what specialty you want to do, if it's done a lot manually back home, you might consider if that's the same thing you'll be doing here. No, if you're in hematology, all this PCV thing, nobody does PCV here. All these stuffs are done automated with like the Sysmex analyzer. ESR is done automated. Blood film is done automated by the analyzer. We don't make films like by ourselves, except maybe on rare occasions. So like you want to know what kind of advancement has happened in that particular discipline you are trying to move to. And also as a BMS, you can remember you can always switch. You can be in micro and decide you want to switch to hematology. After 2 years, that's still fine. Maybe not in Nigeria, but here in the UK, you can just start applying for a job in another discipline. So if that's what you want, as long as you can pass an interview, when you get a job, you are always trained. So you don't have to worry that much about you don't know what you're doing. You will still be trained.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for answering the question. The next.
Yeah, so apologies to just chip in. I find the question very interesting. My name is Muhammad Galamasu. I'm also a graduate of, I think, 2015 or thereabouts. Just to add to what you said in terms of specialization, I wanted to ask a question before I responded. Do we still have specialization written in our certificate from Usmanu Danfodiyo? Is that happening, or we are just writing BMLS?
Well, you just have the DMLS. Sorry, you say you graduated in 2015?
I just have. Yes, exactly. So during my time, I graduated in 2015. It's just BMLS that was written on my certificate. And I happen to have this. Okay, I happen to have this experience where I did my internship at hospital management board in Abuja. I was an intern in Asoko District Hospital. And all my co-interns and all of that, we are doing internship. We are talking about they are specializing in this area, this and that, this and that. And once they come to me, I said, and I don't have specialization. But in school, I did my my undergraduate project in criminology. So I did my final year in criminology. But when we are doing internship, I strictly state that I don't have specialization. If you take me to microbiology, I will give you my best in microbiology. If you take me to hematology, I will give you my best. If you take me to history, I will give you my best. That makes the narrative to start changing. And I'm the first candidate who needs to be in FCT for internship in the hospital service management. And when I left, I can remember that time that the director then said to me that you are leaving. Well, you are the first intern that was leaving and brought about 3 interns because I have to find a way for 3 people to become intern. So what I want us to understand now, I'm currently working. The presenter is talking about malaria and all of that. I was just smiling. I'm into malaria now. I'm currently working with vector control, and my is entomology. We deal with vector. Malaria vector generally is my interest. And I have this opportunity. I will be doing my PhD by September. I will be starting a PhD with the London School of Hygiene with Professor Jola, who is an expert in malaria vector. And during the process of selections and all of that, they said you read medical laboratory science and all of that. In Nigeria, you have specialization. I said I don't have specialization. Nobody will ask you your transcript before you will find out if you are from UDUSOK, Sokoto, that you are specialized in any area. So it was at the point of the last interview that I have, when the panel were reviewing my transcript from UDUSOK, they now saw that I have specialization, more of my thesis in my final year in what do you call it, immunology. And they still ask me that question, that you have not done entomology so much or anywhere where your specialization is. But I said I'm a medical laboratory scientist and I was trained best in medical entomology and virology. So the whole idea is, I think UDUS is one of the best opportunities that we all have when we present ourselves, how we present ourselves. But for me, I don't see specialization in our training, and we don't specialize. That is how I presented myself, and that is how I think it.
Thank you. I get your point of view. Like I said, there's a reason why like throughout your undergrad up to your 400 level, you get to do every single discipline. So if it would have been so, it would be like, okay, you want hematology, that's all you'll be doing from year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5. But the reason why you are taught to specialize in every area, it's basically because as a medical laboratory scientist, you should be able to make correlations. And unfortunately for us, we don't use LIMS a lot, this laboratory information management system. We don't use it a lot in Nigeria. Like here in the UK, once you get into a patient's information, you could see their result from different departments. Okay, you are seeing like you've done the blood film. I don't know how blood film now is in most places, but here in the UK, it's mostly BMSs that do blood film, and we only refer like special cases to like hematology consultants and senior registrars. So like if you look at a blood film, you start seeing like spherocytes, fragments, polychromatic cells, anemia. Then you go into the patient's file. Okay, you see the patient is having normocytic normochromic anemia. You go to chemistry, see the patient has raised lactate dehydrogenase, haptoglobin is down. You check the liver function test. You can see bilirubin is raised. You start suspecting hemolysis. So you're making this correlation. You're making this correlation. You are looking at several things. Do you need to even look at maybe clotting screen and all that to maybe you're suspecting microangiopathic hemolytic anemia. So you're basically making a lot of correlation. So if you are just specialized in one department, you can't make sense out of it. If a patient is having sepsis, you need knowledge of microbiology to know. Sometimes you might see neutrophils having cytoplasmic inclusion, toxic granulation. Then you see low platelet count. You're making that correlation. Seeing anemia, also seeing maybe a raised chemistry result, raised CRP. So you're making all this correlation. That's why, to me, specialization is not supposed to be a thing, at least at the undergrad level. When you start working, that's when you should be specializing. That's what they do in the UK here. The only thing you do like a particular department in is your undergrad project. You don't not necessarily do it during your the curriculum itself. So I'm not really a fan of specialization. Like I said, I specialized in microbiology, in medical microbiology when I was in Nigeria, up to when I left in 2021. But since I came to the UK since 2022, I've been in hematology. If I had no background at all in hematology, how would I be able to switch? You need to know, it's better you know something about everything than to know everything about just one thing. So that's my answer to that question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time and answering that question. And thank you very, very much, Muhammad Bayamasu, for also tipping in your opinion on that. So your expert opinion on that, to be specific. We have Mufai Omar Goshi hands up. Mufai, let's have you please.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, we can hear you.
Welcome, sir. Thank you for the presentations. Actually, I'm not a scientist. I was scrolling in my LinkedIn this evening. I saw Augustine Udefi, and I really remember the guy. We stayed in one room those years back. Me and Farouk, if you could remember, the radiographer.
Yes.
Yeah. So I say this thing is not only for scientists. I have to join you here today. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's one thing to know that even after, like, when did we leave school? 2018, 6 years ago. You can still see friends and colleagues who still
I
remember
was
you,
just
and
scrolling
it's a
this
good
evening,
thing.
so I saw the flyer in my LinkedIn. I said, ah, this one is for me. I have to join here.
Yeah,
I
do
actually
send me a connection request on LinkedIn.
I will
Let's
send you a
connect.
connection, inshallah. I
All
really
right.
enjoyed the presentation, sir. What I'm saying is, yes, we need all these orientations as of this time now. Most of the time we are left behind. Most of in UDUS alumni we are left behind apart with this scholarship. Currently, me say I'm struggling. Like I'm preparing all these things now. I all like all these passports, transcript, and everything. All of these ones I have gotten. So while in the journey, please, I need to connect with you in my LinkedIn.
No, that's fine. That's
So
fine. If I
currently,
can advise any undergrad right now, if you're thinking of international scholarship in the next 3 years, or at least if you're graduating, go get your if you can't get your original certificate, get your statement of result. No school outside Nigeria cares about original certificate. Statement of result or notification of result is fine. Get your transcripts. Look for people who will be your recommenders. All UDUT lecturers, they all have a professional email. Get the email of at least your undergrad supervisor, and get two other people that can reliably reply to like some of these international scholarship admission, if they need to send you references and all that. Get at least get 4 reliable people if possible. So if one is shaky, you can use the other ones. But like I said, that's what I'll advise you to do. Try to like connect with people who have gotten a scholarship you're looking for. Um, Even if you're not a medical lab scientist, a radiographer is still under the Health and Care Professions Council in the UK. So we're all still under the same council here. It's in Nigeria that everybody has their own separate council, but we're all one here. So try as much as possible, use the resources available to you. We were not opportune to get this kind of thing when we were in school. Only
yes,
three people only 3 people from my class of 2018 applied for scholarships as of 2021. And that was me, De Novo, and Gora. I got a scholarship. De Novo got a scholarship, and Gora got a scholarship. Only 3 of us applied. All 3 of us got in different countries. So it's sometimes you don't know until you try. If you've never gotten one in your undergrad, same here. I didn't get one. You might be lucky to get one in your postgrad. So it's just one of those things. You could get in your undergrad. I know De Novo had FSB when we were in school, and you can still get in your postgrad. There's no formula. You can't know what you can achieve if you don't try.
we really appreciate, sir. Even Mr. Shams, he was here earlier, but he left. Even last year, I contacted him. I applied for Mandela Washington Fellowship last year, so I sent him my review my application. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it. But even this year, I'm applying for Mandela Washington. But I will even talk about
Okay. Let me just pause you there. And this advice I'll give it to almost everybody here on this call. Like I said, if you're applying for a scholarship, don't have one in mind. Apply for all the ones that are available. You could be looking for Mandela. That I think the Mandela scholarship. I can't remember if it's in US or South Africa. I can't really remember. It's probably in one of them. If you're applying for scholarship, don't limit yourself to one. I just want to take this moment to acknowledge Mrs. Fumilayo Ashcroft. She's currently on this call. She really helped me when I was looking for scholarship. She's one of the people that if I just say, oh, this school needs a reference, before the end of the day, she has sent that reference. Even when I got the Commonwealth Scholarship, I told her that same day that I've gotten it. She's currently on this call. You need people who are reliable to get references for you. Sometimes references are like time restricted. They have people on waiting list. You've gotten to one stage of the scholarship. If your referee doesn't reply on time, you've lost that scholarship. So you need to take some of these things very, very, very seriously. If you can get 3 to 4 people, some of them will be very, very reliable and very active if you need them to turn up for you. Don't fixate yourself on one scholarship. I tried so many in Canada, US, before I finally got the Commonwealth, which turned out to be the best for me. So, and I won't lie to you, the number of scholarships I applied to were at least 25 to almost 30 in just that 1 year. of that one academic session, because within September to or 40 scholarships to apply to. If you can deal to be define your essays, get people checking them for you and correcting them. By the time if you don't get, let me say at the end of that year, you would at least get a very strong essay that you can transfer to almost any other scholarship you're looking for. So that's my advice for you. Thank you.
Looking forward to connecting to my link. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the organizers.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much for your time and answering this question. Thank you, Rufai, for joining this call also. A huge thank you to Ms. Ashcroft for joining on this call. I know she has a busy schedule, and we are going to be having her in weeks to come on this call too, and she's going to be sharing with us her amazing journey. Ms. Ashcroft taught me my UG2 before she traveled back again. I'm glad to connect with her and we hear from her again. So we have another hands up. We have Muhammad Al-Haji. Muhammad.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for sharing this experience with us. Really, we are really grateful. So my question is, you made mention of you know a lot of people during your applications. You can say like a lot of the countries or continents, at least you know two. How were you able to manage this? Then the second question is, if it's okay with you,
Hello.
please, are you married? Because why I'm asking this is that for those who are married, in partner to follow them, or how do they navigate with that? Thank you.
Okay. Your first question was like how I managed to like keep up with connecting with people from different countries. For one, if you notice, if you have anybody who lives outside the country, you would understand that they can be very busy. So most times, even if you don't contact them for a while, they're fine. So like nobody takes it personally if you don't reach out maybe in like 2 weeks, or in fact, if you message somebody on LinkedIn and you're like, hey, how are you doing? Most of them won't even reply you. Most of them just want you to go straight to the point so they can focus on the next thing. Because a lot of people are messaging them. If you want a scholarship like essay review, most of the time people would go like, hey, how are you doing? Hope you're fine. And then you'll be surprised, like you message like 15 people, nobody's replying to you. You need to message the person, greet them in that same message. Hey, you like you're trying to get a scholarship. If it could be convenient for them to help you look at your essay, most of them would be pretty busy to look at it. That's why you need to connect with a lot of people. Currently now, my schedules are very tight because I'm working full time. I'm also running 2 specialist programs right now at my place of work. So my schedule is very tight. And of course, having to also balance personal life and other things. So for people who are married, I personally don't have the experience because I'm not married. So that's one. Let's get that one out of the way. The people who are married, I think you would know that different scholarships have different conditions, and for like people who are like having to bring dependents, if you were getting a scholarship in places like UK, I mean, like let me say US and Canada, most of these scholarships tend to be like within schools. So they are like fundings, not necessarily scholarships. So the professors, the researchers normally have the funding. So if you were to write to a researcher via email, tell them about maybe the project they are working on and how you could contribute to it, and they see you as a good fit and they are willing to fund you, you would be the one to pay your flight and all that, but they would pay your tuition and give you monthly stipends when you are over there. If you find a way to bring your family, that's for you to make research by asking people who live there. For Commonwealth Scholarship, they normally give you like some extra amount of money if you have like a child. I think I can't remember, for like your first child is like about £600 a month or £500 a month. Then from second child, I think it's like 300, and then maybe like an extra 100 if you have 3 kids. So it helps you, like if you're outside the country, to take care of them. And also there's no end all be all. You could travel outside for a year, take care of your family, and then find a way to bring them all over when you get a job. You don't have to like all move together. And it's one of the things that a lot of people get frustrated with when they move outside the country. They move with their whole families, and then maybe you were earning a good amount of money. You were earning maybe 400,000 back in Nigeria, or I don't know how much that would be of value today. But let me say, when I left, 400,000 was a lot of money. So you could take care of your whole family. So when you move here with that mindset, and then you realize 400,000 can't even maybe feed you, talk more of even housing you, talk more of your family, it's better to come one, get used to the system, know how it works, then bring your family. So all of you are not trying to figure things out at the same time. So reach out to somebody who is married, has gone through my own a similar journey to mine. I know a lot of people in the UK who are married, who came with their spouses. Some of them, while they are here, their spouses were working full time. So it just depends on what works for them. So I might not be the best person to know that, because I didn't go through that route. But that's what I can tell you from my own experience.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for answering this question. I think we have a last hand, and it seems there's no question in chat box. So we're going next to Abdullah Omasaju. Does that have a question? Thank you. Abdullah, are you there? Can you have your question, please? If you're having issues with your network, probably give a minute and you type it in the chat box.
So before the question comes, I also want to acknowledge one of my colleagues, Jafar Umar. He's currently on this call. So like I said, when we were in 2021, only 3 of us from the class of 2018 applied for scholarship. Jafar here is one of them, Dinovo and me. And all 3 of us who applied all got scholarships. So like I said, if you don't try, you won't know.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Mr. Jafar Omar, Scientist Jafar Omar, for joining us. You also be having him in weeks to come on this session. I think the only person that I've not talked to here, as we've shared, is Muhammad Balamasu, and I look forward to connecting with you and also engaging, sharing your wealth of experience with us, undergraduates, your younger ones, and see how we could learn from you too. I think the question is not coming, so let me check. So probably I think Sajo is not there, so we might not want to keep you waiting. Thank you very, very much for your time. I believe if you have questions, you can reach out to me. Well, there's a new hand. Ibrahim Kali, do you have a question? I think this is the last question, then you record it for anything. Okay, I felt it was a mistake. So thank you very much, sir, for your time. Thank you very, very much. I know you have a busy schedule, and yet you still find time to join on our calls. And for our esteemed guests, I know we have also busy schedules for joining us. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having you in more sessions to come, and it will be communicated to you. Thank you once again for your time, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I wish you all the best, sir.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Thank you. We can feel free to pop out of the call, and you get to connect with, as we said earlier, you can reach out to him on his LinkedIn page. He still uses the same name as what you see here as Mr. Augustine. Just type his name on I'll be typing in the chat box so individuals will get to see it. It's Augustine Udefi, so you get the spelling right. You can just copy it and search him on LinkedIn. You can connect with him, and you guys can keep the conversation going. Thank you once again for your time.
No problem, my pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
All right, then. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Wow.
All right, let's just hear what let's hear what he has to say.
Okay.
Yeah, good evening. Sorry, I raised my hand. I don't even know if you allowed me to talk, but I was a bit busy. So thank you very much for that insight, and thank you for giving us your time. I am Abdullah Umar Farouk. So my question here, just quick on it, is I would like to know what are the other opportunities for people maybe willing to go out, not just maybe to work, maybe as a BMLS, as a scientist. What are the other opportunities open? Not just to work there, maybe, you know.
Okay. Well, like I said, like every other degree, you don't necessarily have to confine yourself to what your degree offers you. You can be a BMLS and you decide to go into public health. There are a lot of BMSs. Some don't mind me. I use BMS because that's what we're called here in the UK instead of medical lab scientist. So like you could use your degree to like go into academia. If you want to go into like research and all that, you could do a master's and a PhD, become a researcher. You could go into public health and work with NGOs. There's a colleague of mine who currently is in South Africa. His name is Suleiman Yusuf. He's currently there on scholarship, and before he left, he was working in an NGO in Nigeria. So that's also an opportunity you can exploit if you are a biomedical scientist. There's a lot of things like if you decide to travel out of Nigeria for like academic purposes, if you don't want to like be specialized maybe in let me say hematology or like microbiology, you could go into maybe some of all these advanced molecular sciences, molecular biology, translational medicine, and become a researcher in that area. So you can become an academic, you can become a researcher, and so many other things. You could also become an entrepreneur. But like you said, you're asking me in general. I'm just telling you what you can do when you travel out. And also, even if you travel out, you can also change specialty.
Yeah, sorry to be. Thank you very much for that. First of all, to be more specific, business opportunities.
Okay. If you were thinking of business opportunities, it would be better to reach out to somebody that has gone through that pathway. I'm not a businessman, so my knowledge will be a bit limited in that area. I mean, a part of us, maybe as Nigerians, we like hustling, so we want to have a side business or so. There are a lot of people who do businesses here. So some of them do businesses in spite of their work. There are BMSs here who also maybe sell like, maybe have like African restaurants, African grocery stores, because all these African stores are more expensive here. So some of them also sell these things. Some do logistics where they like send stuff to and fro from Nigeria. So it's just about what you're interested in, your knowledge, your background, your experiences, and the connection you have, as well as your capital. So that's just what I can tell you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hope that helps.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your time. I think you showed that you really have the best of Udus at heart, because you told me you had a very, very busy engagement, and yet you are still here on the call. We are very, very grateful for your time, and we sincerely appreciate your continuous support. I will continue to be in touch with you, and I look forward to having more conversation with you in the future. Thank you once again for your time.
No problem. Have a good one.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good evening. Everyone, we will end this call in 5, 4, 3, 2. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Goodbye, sir.
I'm looking forward to discussing.
Okay, I'll send you a message.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.